All right, so hi, this is Helen Thomas again from the CDFM study group, and I'm going to be continuing the review of the CDFM Module 2.1 Federal Budget Process. And this is just a visual that I created to try to get you to understand the budget process a little bit better. All right, so we ended up talking about the planning phase, and at the end of the planning phase, we get the defense planning guidance or the defense planning and programming guidance that is sent to the agencies. And at the same time, the Director of CAPE, DCAPE, and the Undersecretary of Defense Comptroller issues POM and budget estimate submission guidance. So for the POM process, that's the programming phase and the budgeting phase. And the reason that you're getting guidance from DCAPE and USD Comptroller is because those are the individuals responsible for the programming and the budget phase. So that's the planning phase of P. Now you see the programming phase, the Director of CAPE is the one responsible for the programming phase, and programming is the where we translate the plan to allocation of resources. Now we actually have to take the plan that we created over here and we actually need to translate it to the resources that we have available. So your combatant commanders will submit their requirements to the component commanders. So whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, combatant commanders do not own resources. The components do. So they have to submit their requirements to the component for inclusion into that component's POM. Sends it to the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, who's the top military advisor. Commander does his assessment and provides recommendation of the POM submission. Again, we will have different levels of board, 3-star program review board, and so forth that meet at the Department of Defense level. They meet to review all the documents that were submitted in the POM. Pay close attention to right here where it says DCAPE, so that the same Director of CAPE who is in charge of programming is also responsible for updating the future year defense program. And you will see that explained in Module 2.1, the federal budget process. So the future year defense program is a DoD database that keeps track of all the transactions that occur in each one of these phases. It keeps track of all the dollar amounts and all the required resources. At the same time, while the programming phase is going on, you also have the budgeting phase that's going on the other side. The individual responsible for the budgeting phase is the Undersecretary of Defense Comptroller, USD Comptroller. And remember, at the end of planning, I said the DCAPE, who's in charge of programming, and the USD Comptroller, who's in charge of the budget, issues POM and best guidance. So you have programming, now you have the budget phase where we translate these programs into actual appropriations, because we ask for budget every year. So now whatever requirements we have for the next coming fiscal year, it needs to be translated into an appropriation. So your combatant commanders submit their requirements to the component commanders for inclusion into the budget estimate submission. The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff does his assessment and provides recommendation of the budget. Those same boards meet again to review the budget documents, and there's another system. So on the budget side, this Comptroller information system is updated by the USD Comptroller to keep track of the budget. So your future year defense program is updated in the programming years, in the programming phase of PBE, and the CIS, Comptroller Information System, is an additional system that is updated in the budgeting phase, along with your future year defense program. So in the budget side, you have the FYDP and the CIS. Director of CAPE updates the future year defense program budget numbers, and the USD Comptroller update the CIS budget numbers. The end result of both the programming and budget phase is the resource management decision. That is the DoD's final decision on what the POM is going to be, what the budget request is going to be to send forward, and the future year defense program is updated. The CIS is updated with what the DoD's final decisions were on the POM and the budget. The RMD numbers are then sent to Office of Management and Budget. OMB is the resource manager for the president or the executive branch. The president is required to submit the budget to Congress no later than the first Monday in February. Budget goes to Congress. Once Congress goes through the authorization process to authorize the program, they go through the appropriation process to give us the actual funding. Once the appropriation law has been approved, we enter the execution phase. The USD Comptroller is also responsible for the execution phase of PPBE. So he's responsible for budgeting and execution. The purpose of the execution phase is to monitor execution of the plan. So we put this plan in place in the beginning. We program resources to it. We translate those resources to appropriations. Once it's approved by Congress, then we need to execute it according to the plan. So here we just simply know that we're going to have annual appropriation, incremental, which is your RDT&E, your full funding, which is your procurement, and military construction. So that's the second system. So we said there were three systems DoD used: JCITS, PPBE, and the Defense Acquisition System. So if JCITS capability gap solution is a acquisition or material solution, then it triggers another system that overlaps with these, is the Defense Acquisition System. That is where we buy or we develop the solution we need to fill that gap. So you have the Defense Acquisition Board. That's the DoD's senior forum for advising on major defense acquisition systems. Anything level ACAT 1 Delta. The chairman of the Defense Acquisition Board is the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics. The USD AT&L is the chairman of the Defense Acquisition Board. But don't forget about the vice chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, who is the executor of JCITS. He is the chairman of the Joint Requirements Oversight Council. That's this council right here that has an oversight of all of this process. And he's also the vice chairman of the Defense Acquisition Board with the USD AT&L. He ties the long range and the near-term needs. So the vice chairman also sits on this Defense Acquisition Board with the USD AT&L to make sure that the DoD's plan is still in line with the defense strategy, and the defense strategy is still in line with meeting the national security strategy right here. Okay? So hopefully this made it a little bit easier for you to understand the federal budget process. But remember, there are a lot of intricate details not included here. I just gave you the big moving parts for you to understand the federal budget process. Thank you, and I'll see you again next time.